DeepSeek pretty much took ChatGPT out in one swift move. It's got all the same killer reasoning, but it's totally free. The catch is, prompting works a bit differently than what we're used to with ChatGPT. And in this video, I'm gonna give you the full rundown on how DeepSeek works, show you how to run it locally, pick the right model, and of course, drop a bunch of prompt examples you can use right away in any niche. Stick around for the next 30 minutes and you will go from absolute newbie to DeepSeek Pro. To get going with DeepSeek AI, the first thing you do is open up chat.deepseek.com, ask you to create an account, which is no big deal. I just picked the Google option so I don't have to cook up some new password and try to remember it later. Once you're in, you'll spot the main chat view. The prompt box hangs out right in the center, and below it are two toggles, one for advanced reasoning, that's the R1 model, and another for web search. You can activate them one at a time or both at once. The web search is actually not working as I record this, but I did test it out a while back and felt a lot like how ChatGPT handles web searches. You'll also see a file upload button. DeepSeek is multimodal and can handle various file types like text, files, spreadsheets, stuff like that. And images work too, but no video, no audio just yet. Look over at the left side and you'll see your list of all chats. You can rename or delete each chat by clicking the three dots and choosing the option you want. Below that is a QR code button that lets you download the mobile app. I will come back to that soon so I can show you how that works. Down at the bottom, there's my profile, and under that, settings. Now, this is where DeepSeek differs from ChatGPT because there really aren't any settings. The only things you can change are the theme, the interface language, and you can delete your account. That's it. No custom instructions or anything else. DeepSeek is just starting its journey, but I'm sure it will be big. Just the fact that it performs almost as well as the O1 while taking far fewer resources is mind-boggling. A year ago, a model like this was impossible to run on anything but a supercomputer, yet now you can run it on your own computer. That's how fast the world of AI changes, and it's so easy to miss something important. If you want up-to-date insights and new tools like DeepSeek, plus clear tips and guides on how to use them, check out Geekademy. We'll help you stay ahead, practical, no fluff info, and once you're ready to connect with others, our growing community is right there for you. Join us and let's make Geekademy the biggest and most useful AI resource ever. When you ask DeepSeek something, it will split its response into two sections. The grayed out part is its thought process, which is super cool to see. You can literally watch the AI figuring things out. The black text is the actual answer. You can hide the thought process to make everything a bit neater, but I like seeing how AI thinks. Next to each answer, there are buttons to copy it, regenerate it, and rate it. You might see DeepSeek suddenly quit on you now and then. Happens pretty often because their servers are slammed. Get used to the server is busy, please try again later message. Sometimes one simple regeneration fixes it. Other times you might have to sit tight for 3 to 5 minutes until things free up. If you keep spamming the regenerate button too quickly, you will get a warning about making too many requests. There aren't that many things to do before starting chatting, though I'd recommend installing the mobile app. You can find the app in the App Store, just scan the QR code. The app looks and feels a lot like ChatGPT's app, and in terms of features, is really similar to the desktop version of DeepSeek, but I will tell you all about it a bit later. Before we get into prompting tips, let me brief you on all the stuff DeepSeek can do, because prompting tips are universal and will work equally well in any scenario. So, DeepSeek can do general writing, rephrasing, rewriting, ideation, the basics. We won't even stop at this right now. Next up, can do file analysis, but the files must be very specific. Text files, docx files, Excel spreadsheets, images. DeepSeek can extract text from files and images and then work on that text. This is true both for the web version and the mobile. Web search. Like I told you earlier, there is a special button for that, but right now it's not working. Technically, it just enables web access since DeepSeek's knowledge cuts off in 2023. With this turned on, you'll be able to search for news articles, stocks, and so on, given that it actually works for you. And coding. DeepSeek is quite good at writing code. Can be something simple as the web page layout in HTML, or a Python code for creating graphs, or even a game in JavaScript. With the last example with special actually cool is that you can preview the project right there in DeepSeek. And the snake game created is actually playable. No need to install any libraries, apps, or anything. Technically, you can even somehow make DeepSeek help you out with email and SMS marketing, but for that, I'd rather use something tried and tested like OmniSend, the sponsor of today's video. OmniSend is an e-commerce focused marketing automation platform that helps online merchants capture leads and drive sales with gamified sign-up forms, built-in discount codes, and abandoned cart reminders, combines email, SMS, and push notifications so you can engage customers on their preferred channels. With advanced segmentation, real-time analytics, and 250 plus customizable email templates, OmniSend delivers targeted campaigns that reflect your brand. Ready-made workflows covering abandoned carts, welcome series, and browse abandonment are quick to set up and fully customizable, no coding required. The product picker lets you showcase items directly from your store, and you can even collect and display product reviews for extra social proof. Users in every plan, including free, benefit from 24/7 email and live chat support. If you're looking for a robust yet accessible way to grow your online business, give OmniSend a try. The link is down below. Now, what makes DeepSeek truly unique is that you can run it locally, even the biggest model, and it's free to use, so you pretty much can have your own ChatGPT 01 at home, trained on your own data, and tailored to do your specific tasks. Crazy. Now, DeepSeek has these R1 models, 1.5B, 7B, 14B, 32, and 70. Each number basically tells you how powerful and resource hungry it is. The 1.5B model is super light and perfect if you just want quick answers or you're not rocking a super powerful setup. Then there is the 7B for slightly more complex stuff. It's a nice jump up without getting too crazy. Then you've got 14B, which handles bigger tasks and gives you more depth in responses. For the really heavy workloads, there's the 32B, and for the absolute top of the line tasks, there's the 70B model. That's where things get really intense, so you will need a rig that can keep up. Each model also has a specific storage size, so be sure you've got enough space on your hard drive. The 1.5B sits at around 1.1 gigabytes, 7B hits about 4.7 gigs, 14B is around 9, the 32B lands at roughly 20, and the 70B model is a whopping 43 gigs. As for hardware, 8 gigs of RAM can handle 1.5B, 16 gigs does the 7B, 32 gigs is needed for 14B, and once you get to 32 or 70B, you are looking at 64 gigs or more. I've noticed that the 14B model works best in the base 14-inch M4 Pro MacBook Pro, good balance between performance and quality. What I find extremely interesting is how DeepSeek managed to shake the whole AI market with one single release. This news is pretty much impossible to miss, but there's a lot of other stuff happening in the world of AI, so how do you stay informed? Welcome to Geekademy, your all-in-one hub for no-fluff AI training and instant value. We cut through the chaos and give you practical, easy-to-follow guides, checklists, and tutorials so you can finally use AI to get real results, not just watch cool demos on YouTube. What's inside Geekademy? Simple PDF guides and checklists, no jargon, just step-by-step instructions you can follow today, video and text lessons with audio commentary. Now this is an advanced prompting method. Learn at your own pace on your terms. AI Tool Finder tells you exactly which AI tool to use for your project, no more guesswork. AI trends updates, stay in the loop on everything important in AI without sifting through the noise. Prompt templates, ready to go prompts to maximize ChatGPT, Midjourney, and more. Exclusive partner discounts. Save big on AI tools and software, covering your membership costs and then some. But our main mission is to give you the practical resources you need to succeed, period. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed and start putting AI to work for your goals, join Geekademy now. Let's make sure you're always ahead of the curve without the stress and confusion. See you inside. The way you prompt for DeepSeek might seem familiar, but has a few caveats, like languages it supports. All prompting must be done in either English or Chinese. All other languages work through a translation layer, and the results can be severely unreliable. If you need the response in another language, then these two can always ask DeepSeek to translate it into the language you want. But the initial response must be in English or Chinese, and it's better to state in your prompt the language that you want the response to use, like I did here. If you've watched our Claude video, you saw that it was quite keen on formatting. DeepSeek goes even further, bringing back the times when you had to format prompts in a specific way. If you want multiple constraints or a technical style, throw in some formatting to separate your thinking from what you actually want in the final output. But if you just have a quick question, no need to go all out with styling. There are 3 formatting styles to choose from: Markdown, Think and Answer, and Conversational. The last one is the simplest, just write prompts like you would say to a regular person or any other AI. Markdown requires you to separate prompts into separate blocks, each with a keyword at the beginning, explaining to the AI what part of instructions it sees below. Like in this prompt, I used Gall and constraints to explain what DeepSeek must do and what the limitations are. You can divide your prompts into as many separate blocks as you want. The more, the better. DeepSeek is not as advanced as ChatGPT, and even though its reasoning looks great, it still can struggle with understanding prompts correctly. The third way is Think and Answer. This pretty much means you separate background instructions from the final request with tags like think and answer. The think part is basically your blueprint. An answer is where you request the final output. Closing tags are also necessary here for each part. Just like any other AI, DeepSeek's responses can be only as good as your prompts. So the first order of business I have for you is being extra specific. I know you've heard all this before, but keep in mind that DeepSeek actually needs this. Try to include as much detail into your prompts: what you want, why, who you are, time, topic, length. The more info you give, the better the answers. Vague prompts lead to vague answers. Check out my prompt. I clearly state an objective for DeepSeek. Then I share an image with a target audience so that the language would be tailored to influence those people. After that, I give a specific word count and specify the language. It even gives me the word count at the end, which I find especially useful because ChatGPT refuses to do that most of the time. If you're tackling a complex task that involves lots of reasoning and actions, it's always better to break these complex tasks into actionable steps. You have to be a guide, basically, carefully orchestrating and engineering the way DeepSeek is going to approach the task. You can give steps directly or just mention that you want DeepSeek to approach it step by step. Pick your poison. In my prompt, I'm given a rough outline of the outline, if that makes sense. Also, I'm using the think and answer formatting for better results. The end result follows my instructions perfectly, and the outline I got looks really nice, exactly what I wanted. The impact of this tip is visible even with such small tasks, and as they get more complex, you will see an even bigger difference. Ultimately, for the most perfect results, you'd have to use all the prompting tips I will give you in one prompt, but trust me, it won't be super difficult to do. DeepSeek, being a reasoning-focused model, also has an ability to self-reflect. It doesn't have to be a separate prompt, it can all be in the same prompt, like I did here. After asking for a short strategy, I asked it to list one possible challenge or risk. Even though it's a short question, it explicitly asks for a risk assessment. That extra nudge can help R1 give a more complete, realistic plan instead of just the highlights. DeepSeek doesn't just invent stuff, but actually analyzes everything and assesses all the possible scenarios. Here are a few ideas of how to ask R1 to self-reflect. Then, mention possible risks, review your idea for errors, or highlight potential weaknesses. Now, if you're looking for multiple solutions, or maybe you want to compare different paths, telling R1 to produce 2 or 3 approaches is what you should do. Just type something like, give me variety, let me see options. You might also phrase it like, compare A and B, or give me 3 ways to do X. For example, if you're training for a 5K run, you could use something like this. Task, provide 2 ways to train for a 5K run. 1, quick, high-intensity approach. 2, slower, endurance-building approach. Additional, and with 1 sentence explaining when each approach is most suitable. That's a markdown-style prompt where you clearly split up the tasks. 2 methods plus a final note comparing them. If you just said, how do I train for a 5K run, you'd probably get a one-size-fits-all answer. But by asking for 2 approaches, you will see different angles. Maybe one focusing on speed drills and another focusing on steady endurance. And the final line ties it all together, showing which approach fits which type of runner. The more specifically you ask for self-checks, like identifying risks, or different approaches, like comparing options, the more interesting and practical the answers get. You're basically guiding the AI to step out of a single track answer and consider multiple perspectives or possibilities. The first response is rarely spot on, so it's perfectly normal to keep nudging R1 for better style, length, or more laser-focused content. You can just say something like, "That was too formal, make it more casual," and let the model do a quick revamp. For example, if you ask this, and if the result feels stiff or a little off target, you can immediately follow up with, "Can you revise it to be more playful?" This back and forth, basically the secret sauce to get a truly awesome answer. So don't hesitate to tweak it until it sounds just right. Another handy approach is having DeepSeek take on a certain role or persona. When you tell it to act as a career counselor, it's more likely to get into a mindset that talks about skill gaps, hiring trends, and so forth, making the advice more on point. Even if you're not using advanced features, a simple persona prompt can shape the style and knowledge that shows up in the final response. With some tasks, you might want a bit more than just the plain answer. You want to see how AI came to that conclusion. You want some explanation. So in this case, you better use a markdown formatting style, and in your prompt, ask for clarification and a more detailed response. When asking to crunch some numbers, I explicitly ask to show each step of your calculation and give the final answer in square feet. And it did just that. Again, my example is very simplistic, but on bigger tasks, the impact will be far more noticeable. Sometimes when you're writing an email and don't know who it's gonna be for, like for which department head or which manager, it's better to use placeholders in your drafts. To do this, just ask use product name as a placeholder. And then in the response, the placeholder will be placed everywhere where the name or product must be. Then you can just replace it in any text editor, simple and easy. One thing I love doing is setting up a pros, cons list and then asking the model to pick the best option for a specific situation, or to do a face-off between two ideas. Any sort of comparison works wonders for improving reasoning and the quality of results. For example, let's say you're torn between two vacation spots like a beach resort and a mountain lodge. A good way to do it is by using those think and answer tags. In the think section, list exactly what you want: budget, activities, weather, and specify that you want a final recommendation at the end based on, let's say, family-friendly vibe. Then, in the answer section, say, keep it concise, maybe under 100 words, and give me clear recommendation. This approach delivers both the why, pros, cons, and the what, your best pick, in one package. It's especially handy if you don't want to sift through a big wall of text. You can just read the bullet points, see which one fits your scenario best, and call it a day. It's always a good idea to limit DeepSeek in terms of actions and reasoning you want it to perform. If you don't want R1 to mention certain elements like advanced math or technical terms, just say so. The markdown prompting style here fits best, in my opinion. In the task section, when asking for an explanation of how Wi-Fi works, I said, avoid using complex network jargon or acronyms. Keep it in plain English, under 70 words. By using such explicit exclusions, you pretty much guide the model to keep things more accessible. And the result looks very simple, easy to understand, and overall better than the one I would have gotten without mentioning exclusions. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, DeepSeek can analyze files with text in them and perform all sorts of things with the extracted text. But the part you should really keep in mind is working with datasets. Processing data is one of DeepSeek's strong suits, with a few limitations. To analyze a file, you first have to upload it, obviously. Then you type a prompt with instructions on what to do. A good test of its capabilities would be asking for a comparison of two files. I will ask DeepSeek to check the files for patterns and summarize all findings into bullet points. I will also mention the files as file A and file B. This helps the AI to not get lost in all the data, after which I will get a smart and concise response. Would be nice to get some visualizations with that, but as of right now, DeepSeek can't directly create any sort of diagrams. It can write a Python code that we then would have to paste into the program and get a graph that way. This is one of the limitations to keep in mind. However, it can create tables just fine. No limitations there. The overall rules for working with files are the same as for working with text, being detailed and concise, dividing big tasks into smaller ones, and so on. Now, I believe you already have the phone app installed, so let me guide you through that, starting with the interface. The overall design and layout is very similar to ChatGPT. The prompting box, the same two buttons for enabling advanced reasoning and web access, and a button to add files. There, it gives three options: photo OCR, image OCR, and document. The first one lets you take a photo in the moment, the second one to upload your own photo, the third one self-explanatory. The menu on the left has all your chats, and the button in the top right corner creates a new chat. If you click on your profile in the menu, you'll go to settings, and again, all we can change is the app language and the theme. As far as the functionality goes, DeepSeek's mobile app can do all the same stuff the web version can. It can analyze files, compare them, can extract text from photos and work on that. No object recognition though, no vision. You can write articles and do everything you can do on the web. It's like what the ChatGPT app was a year ago. The time has come to install DeepSeek on your computer, and it's surprisingly easy. Now we need to fight with terminal, permissions, or allocate terabytes of storage. I will demonstrate in my Mac, but the process will be identical for Windows as well. I'm not sure about Linux, but my guess is that it will be identical too. To start running DeepSeek locally, you'll first need to install Ollama on your device. This app basically does all the work for you. Just download it, and then you need to unzip the archive and install the app. Launch the app and click install. Once that's done, you're pretty much settled. You should see a Llama icon in the status bar, indicating that Ollama is running in the background. Then open Terminal, and in the Terminal window, paste this text. If you want to install other models, here's a list of commands for you to use. But remember about the hardware and storage requirements I mentioned earlier. Wait for the model to load and install, and once you see the success message, you can start prompting. That's it. You have DeepSeek running locally. And since it runs locally, you can even disconnect your computer from the internet and it will still work. Each message will have a thank part and the response that follows. I'll admit, Terminal isn't the most convenient way, but if you want to go the extra mile, you could hook it up to some HTML interface or something like that. So you've got your model running locally, and you can't wait to get to work. Sweet. Now I want to give you a couple prompts you can use as is, each tailored for a specific niche you might be working in. I will also explain how each prompt works, what else you can ask DeepSeek to do in your field, and how to modify a prompt for different results. Content marketers often juggle multiple channels, all to keep their audience engaged, so prompts have to reflect that. My prompt for you is this. This particular prompt follows all the prompting rules, gives clear directions, outlines the audience, explains what must be included, and so on. You can tweak it by adding a personality or provide an example of your past marketing materials. This would also help create a stronger brand language, eliminating some of the work you would have done otherwise. Thanks to this prompt and its possible variations with DeepSeek's advanced reasoning, you can dive deeper into predicting future market trends or brainstorming polls that zero in on emerging consumer questions for maximum engagement. When it comes to bloggers, the variety of possible prompts is infinite, but my example prompt would sound something like this. When it comes to prompts for writing, always specify the length. DeepSeek is great at adhering to these sorts of limitations. Then, just like in my prompt, give it something to think about. I also suggest showing DeepSeek the target audience just to make the language more tailored. And don't forget about outlining the contents. That's how you get good results for your blog texts. If you work in social media management, listen carefully. Since you have to connect with your audience with every publication, the prompt has to focus on describing the audience and the context, and outlining the copy itself, of course. A sample prompt might be this. This prompt ensures AI has enough direction, tone, platform, and content type while leaving room for creativity. If you want to refine it, maybe add specific timelines like an exam session or reference previous engagement patterns. DeepSeek also gives room for integrating its API as chatbots, so theoretically, you can make it the pocket social media manager working 24/7. For copywriters, prompts work in a similar way, but with a few caveats. Writing a copy from scratch can be done with specific prompts, and to learn those, I suggest you watch our ChatGPT guide. So instead of purely writing prompts, I suggest you focus on refining your texts with DeepSeek, like this. This prompt balances preserving essential info with making the text more accessible. You can customize it by specifying the reading level or the style, casual, formal, or somewhere in between to match your brand language. Additionally, you can ask DeepSeek to analyze readability scores, propose alternative sentence structures, or even highlight specific terms that might confuse your intended audience. Okay, this niche may be a bit controversial, but I feel like it deserves special attention. Soon, many dialogues and games will be written with AI. So here's my suggestion for a prompt to try. This prompt gives narrative direction, character conflict, a forbidden object, and a quest at the heart of the story. You could make it better by specifying the setting stone or adding details about the characters' backgrounds to make their motivations clear. You can layer in additional storyline twists, broaden character arcs, or integrate subplots that emerge from the conversation, ensuring your players stay invested for the long haul. But remember about prompting tips from earlier. The simplest thing you can do with DeepSeek if you're a YouTuber is writing a script for a video. This particular prompt, this is the main thing you'd have to do. Focus on the outline, because DeepSeek's own understanding of a script structure can be super different from the outline you might expect. Also, prompting for YouTubers, in my experience, always relies on creativity and ideation. It's not only about writing scripts for videos, but also about coming up with ideas. So be sure to ask for video ideas, fixing video titles, and so on. We have a full video on using AI in content production, 2 videos to be exact, so be sure to watch them next. When it comes to consultant jobs, they are all about reports, corporate language, spreadsheets, data analysis, etc. So I would suggest starting with something like this. Again, it follows all the rules. It's direct, concise, and full of guidelines. I would also suggest upload an example of such a comparison if you have one. This would make formatting everything so much easier. And don't hesitate to upload files and ask for reports based on that. Just try to keep sensitive information out of it. Maybe you'll have to slightly modify the files to get rid of sensitive data, but overall, DeepSeek can become invaluable, especially if you do what I showed you earlier and deploy DeepSeek locally. Prompting for entrepreneurs is a strange thing, since everything revolves around business. Picking a singular prompting approach is nearly impossible, so instead, I will focus on a specific thing: project proposals. This can be a pain, so here's the prompt I'm offering. Be sure to paste the bullet points into the placeholder. As for the prompt itself, I trust you can decipher it by now. If you need to tailor it further, try providing existing style guidelines or brand messaging notes so DeepSeek can maintain consistency. There are many more prompts you might want to use, but that sounds like a topic for a full video. Should we make one? For you, fellow data analysts, I will keep this simple, even though the niche is quite complex. Analyzing files and data in DeepSeek works great, thanks to the model being so lightweight and accurate. And here I will prompt you to deploy DeepSeek locally. That will be the best way to work on your datasets, especially in batches. You saw how good DeepSeek is at analysis, so here is a sample prompt for you to try. And check out the results. Imagine the stuff you could do with a model running locally. There's so much room for automation. For journalists and writers, prompts work pretty much the same way they do for all other writers. Here is the example prompt to prove my point. See? You can still make it better though. Add examples of your writing so that DeepSeek could mimic your style. Look for sources yourself because search is still not working as of time of recording this. Aside from that, just use our prompting tips and you will be golden. If I was to rate DeepSeek as the ChatGPT competitor, I'd say in reasoning, it does pretty much 90% of what ChatGPT does. And sometimes I even prefer DeepSeek's responses. They somehow feel less AI-like. But the best thing about it is that you can run it locally. This seems like the biggest flex and something you should do if your hardware allows that. What do you think of DeepSeek so far? Hop into Geek Academy chats and tell us about your experience. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.